In August of 2017, Richard Spencer published an article called What It Means to be Alt-Right, a meta-political manifesto for the alt-right movement. Today, I will be criticizing point number 3 of that manifesto. Point number 3 reads as follows. Nations must secure their existence and uniqueness and promote their own development and flourishment. The state is an existential entity and at its best a physical manifestation of a people's being, order, and will to survive. Racially or ethnically defined, states are legitimate and necessary. However, I will start pointing out the fact that Spencer fails to mention any reason as to why this state should exist or as to why this state should be implemented. According to the data gathered by the American Community Survey as of 2016, whites represent 73.3% of the population, so this leaves us with 26.7% that is non-white. However, I will point out that in the last percentage, the individuals of 2 or more races are included, meaning white and black or African American, white and Asian, white and American Indian, and Alaska Native, and finally, black of African American and American Indian and Alaska Native. But this certainly begs the question, well, how will the alt-right implement said ethnostate if people of several races live in the US? Here are some criticisms regarding the practicality of this form of organization. If anyone would try to remove non-white citizens against their will, this would result in an act of aggression, meaning you initiate force upon individuals, thus their liberty is compromised. By establishing the ethnostate, you violate the first human right. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Violating freedom of assembly and association. If non-white citizens want to create an enterprise to pursue economic achievements or merely form societal groups with whites, they will not be able to do so as a result of the policies of an ethnostate. This would also break equality before the law if you try to pass a law that allows the authorities of the USA to remove non-white citizens. All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. All are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration and against any incitement to such discrimination. The Article 13 is also broken if you deny non-white citizens the entry to the country. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. Given the views of the alt-right on miscegenation, if you would deny a citizen to the right of marriage because of their race, you break the 16th article and by extension point number 3. Also, I would like to point out the fact that there are laws in various parts of the world that make the prohibition of race mixing illegal. What will happen to the property that belongs to the non-white citizens? If you try to remove them of their property, you break Article number 17. Everyone has the right to own property alone as well as in association with others. None shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. Also note that this is also an act of aggression. If these people affected by the ethnostate want to protest and want to elect someone to change this, but cannot, This violates Article number 21 of the Human Rights. They would not be able to elect non-whites or participate in the public life. Everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country, directly or through freely chosen representatives. Everyone has the right to equal access to public service in his country. The will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. This will shall be expressed in periodic and genuine elections, which shall be by universal and equal suffrage, and shall be held by secret vote or by equivalent free voting procedures. If the ethnostate becomes a reality, non-whites would be denied of their ability to work, thus breaking Article number 23 of the Human Rights Declaration. Everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just, favorable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment. Everyone without any discrimination has the right to equal pay for equal work. Everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, ensuring for himself and his family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection. Everyone has the right to form and to join trade unions for the protections of his interests. And finally, I would like to emphasize the Article number 30 as a final point. Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state, group, or person any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms set forth herein. The imposition of an ethnostate by peaceful, violent, legal, or illegal means certainly would mean a direct violation of these rights. Therefore, the idea of said state is impractical and inhuman. And finally, I would like to add some personal comments. I should point out that I do not agree with what the European Union is doing in terms of immigration. I'm not a Muslim, nor do I think that white people shouldn't have the right to exist. After all, whites are humans, therefore they are protected by human rights with no exceptions. And I also condemned those journalists and journals who demonize white people, so BuzzFeed, Washington Post, etc. And finally, I condemn violence as a form of political advancement. That being said, just because A happens, Proposition A being terrorist attacks, the demonization of white people by the media, that does not mean that we should jump to Proposition B being implementing white nationalism or the establishment of an ethno-state without considering the moral and legal implications. For a practical solution, every country should stand by their own sovereignty and break free from the European Union, those who form part of said union. These countries should not be forced to receive migrants at all. So, to some extent, I agree with some form of nationalism. And finally, it is my belief that if the alt-right gains political power and the idea of an ethno-state comes to fruition in any country, this would only bring death to humans as a whole.